Welcome back for the final classroom instruction on S1. This is the major ground instruction, which you only need to take along with Class 8, which is delivery, when you're going for your major S1 cert. If you're relatively new and you're still studying for your minor S1, you don't need to take Class 7 or Class 8 until you're ready to go for the major cert in Orlando. I'm Dr. Chuck Kowaleski. I'm a S3 controller here at the VATSIM Jacksonville ARTCC. I'm also one of the mentors and a real-world IFR pilot. So we'll move right along. We'll talk about the movement, non-movement areas, the areas of responsibility, ground ops, split ground ops, runway selections, and departure runway assignments. So you've already learned this previously. There's just a quick review of movement versus non-movement areas. If you look at the picture to the right, the non-movement areas are in orange and the movement areas are in gray or black. As it makes sense, I'm sure, since it's typical of other airfields, that we do not control the ramps and we don't control the gates. There have been rare occasions when we did have a gate controller, for example, departing across the pond, when we had to make sure folks were getting out in a reasonable manner. So the areas of responsibility are pretty simple. Ground control has all the taxiways except those between active runways. And since we only have north-south runways at Orlando, these runways are always active unless they are closed for repair. Jacksonville Control West will get all of the taxiways west of Juliet and the taxiways here on the west ramp. Ground Control East will get all of the yellow shaded ones east of side of the airfield for east of Juliet, east of Echo Foxtrot bridges. So the easy way to remember it is the bridges are separators. In terms of ground ops, taxiway Echo is always east, E is east, but if you look at the taxiway pattern, it makes sense because it starts at the runways and goes all the way across till it ends at Gulf. Foxtrot is always to the west or to the left, and that also makes sense. It starts at a runway and then it stops at Echo 1. I'm sorry, it stops at Charlie. As far as the north-south taxiways inside the active runways are concerned, if you remember that the taxiways closest to the air sides are for departing aircraft, and that the taxiways closest to the runways are for arrival aircraft, it'll make sense which direction they're going, regardless of the operations we're using. So when they come out of the air side, they'll turn on the first taxiway. When they come off the arrival, they'll turn on the first taxiway, regardless of our operations. And of course, the direction they travel depends on our operations. The bridges, as I said, are transfer control points as well as separators. So between Juliet 2 and Juliet 3 is a transfer of control when we're doing split ops. If we're moving to the west, then you'll hold them short of Juliet 2 so they can switch to the other ground controller, the west ground controller. If they're going to the east, you'll hold them short of Juliet 3 so they can switch to the east ground controller. Same thing down in Echo and Foxtrot, but it's not bidirectional, so Echo is always east, so you're always going to hold them short of Echo 4 for the east controller if they're coming across the west complex. If they're coming from the east complex and they're on Foxtrot, you're always going to have them hold short of Echo 2 and then hand them off to the west side ground control. So split ops for Juliet is pretty straightforward if you think about it by the operations. So if it's south ops, then the only reason that you would be using Juliet is to get airside 2 departures over to 18 left. So Juliet will always be westbound when we're in south ops. In contrast, now you could also send, by the way, airside 4 aircraft coming out of a Hotel 3 or Hotel 4. Perfectly okay to send them up Gulf, Juliet, Charlie if they need to go to 18 left. So in the opposite direction, we're going north ops. everybody landing on 36 left, 36 right, they'll be coming, usually turning on Juliet, occasionally on Bravo 1 or 2, but usually Juliet, and it makes sense that they'll be then going east to get to airside 2. Yes, you can also have them come here when they arrive and come down to the airside, but then technically you need to put on a hotel. Typically what we do is we only use airside 2 arrivals on Juliet. Everybody else will come down on Bravo and get on Echo and go across to airside 3 or airside 4, and obviously airside 1, they come off of Juliet and go straight on into the airside when we're northbound ops. So taxiway E is always eastbound, hold them short of Echo 4. Foxtrot, therefore, is always westbound, hold them short of Echo 2, and transfer control. The local control is in charge of the active runway selection. When the local control is offline and there's no one above, we typically orient Orlando to the south, and that's when you look at the TRACON, it'll make sense. There's a lot more maneuvering room for arrivals when we're landing to the south. If they're landing on the 18 or 17 runways, than there is when they're landing to the north. So if the tailwind component is less than 7 knots, we're going to go south operations. When the tailwind component exceeds 7 knots, then we'll go to north operations. As usual, the inner runways, in this case 36 right and 35 left, would be designated for departures. So you can always look in the real world configuration from FlightAware or datus.io, or when it's online on the scanner, you can listen and see what they're actually doing in real world. So for light and normal traffic, which is typically what we have here, just taxi them to the nearest active departure runway. When we have heavy traffic, or more likely an event, then we will actually taxi aircraft to the direction of flight. So if they're on the right side or the east complex, and they're heading down Atlas on the southeast side, or Worms to the north, and the reason we use that is because there's more space over there. If they're going to Jacksonville or Daytona Beach, Melbourne, or going out to Tipster, which is like the, as you know, like the Atlas Gate DTA, then we'll taxi them across to the east complex and send them off that way. And then if they're going out to the west, obviously, or due south off of Need, did I get that right? No, Kilman. Then, or if they're going to Tampa, then we'll send them over to the west complex. And that pretty much separates it really well, because they'll swing out to the east and then they'll come up and angle over to the Worms DTA, and that'll keep them away from everyone heading out. The other very heavy load, which is Camden. And of course, it just makes sense to put them on these complexes if they're going to the southeast. So it's not hard to remember this. This is an old slide and says that 18 left and 36 right is closed for construction. That's actually no longer the case. It's now the other side. They finished 18 left, 36 right, and now they're working on 17 right, 35 left. So they were working on the departure runway on the west side. Now they're working on the departure runway on the east side. And that's all there is to it for taxi and ground control for Class 8. So if you've gone through Class 7 and Class 8, you are ready to get on Sweatbox and get your S1 major cert accomplished. If you have any questions about this, please contact your mentor or instructor to clarify those questions and get them answered. There will be a short knowledge quiz for you on the classroom instruction, but as you can see, it's not very complicated, so I'm sure you'll be fine. Thanks and have a great day.